Hello from the Center for Livable Cities and a warm welcome to the 7th episode of our CLC webinar series, Cities Adapting to a Disrupted World. I'm your host, Dinesh Naidu. Our distinguished speaker today is Mr. Nikita Stasishin, the Deputy Minister of Construction, Housing and Utilities of the Russian Federation. And he will be speaking on rebuilding the construction industry, the Russian view. We're very happy to share that for today's webinar, we are providing simultaneous interpretation in both Russian and Mandarin. To access either language, click on Interpretation tab on your Zoom toolbar and then select Russian or Chinese. Following the Deputy Minister's presentation, I'll moderate a dialogue and audience Q&A with him. You can pose questions to him using the Q&A tab. If you'd like a copy, our speaker slides can be downloaded from the CLC website. I'm now honored to welcome and introduce today's speaker, Mr. Nikita Stasishin, the Deputy Minister of Construction, Housing and Utilities of the Russian Federation. Deputy Minister has been at this ministry since 2013, where he rose through the ranks as a Deputy Director and is now Deputy Minister. Prior to his time at the ministry, he was Deputy CEO of the Moscow Region Transport Center. Now, before handing the mic to the Deputy Minister, we'd like to play this short video of the new normal in Russia's construction industry. All right, I think that video sets a great context for the presentation. Now, without further ado, Deputy Minister Nikita Stasishin, the mic is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am glad to greet you here today. Being in charge of housing policy at the ministry, I know how the pandemic has forced us to review our day-to-day activities. Many people and industries have been affected and the construction is no exception. So let's begin in presentation. First slide, please. Here. When faced with a challenge like COVID-19, you have to act fast. The first step is to gather as much information as possible about the virus itself, how to speed, what are the symptoms, and how dangerous it is for individuals. If the situation as it was could escalate and what that would mean for the industry. Together with the industries company, we made a list of system forming organization. Those are the entities with the vital for the industry's existence as such. The list depends on the projects being done by each company, its stage and delivery circumstances. After discussing current projects, their stage, what safety measures are required at each stage of construction, we approved a plan for the construction industry, which includes different measures for recovery. The plan requires candidated work from regional government, developers, banks, and development corporation to provide the necessary volume of housing, increase use of technology in construction, and make loans more obtainable for all participants. The next slide, please. On this slide, you can see construction dynamic for the first half of the year. There is a bit of decline of delivery, which is caused mostly by two things: COVID-19 restrictions and our new financing mechanism for the development. What we see now is that after the restrictions have been waived, construction dynamics have gone up. You can see the numbers of the screen. Our overall goals is to build up to 98 million square meters of housing this year. Next slide, please. How we can see the numbers throughout the country and the volume built in different regions of Russia. In some regions, there is more square meters built, but there is actually a decrease in comparison to the same period last year, while in others there is less total footage, but it's still in increase from before. Overall, there is a positive tendency in construction volume in the country. The next slide, please. So this is what I mentioned earlier about our new mechanism for project financing. Previously, developers obtained financing directly from the potential buyers, or as we call them in this case, shared construction participants. Then spend the money how to so fit to complete construction. Sometimes that lead in delayed completion and irresponsible spending. The next slide. We've changed the scheme for new development and have introduced escrow in Russia last year. Therefore, since July 2019, potential buyers placed their money at an authorized bank, which gets transferred to the developer's account only upon completion of construction and registration of the title. The financing of the project is done by the bank in accordance with the approved project documentation. The next slide, please. Next, I'd like to focus on the impact of the pandemic and the necessary safety precautions. You can see the list in this slide and it's the basics: distancing, masks, and gloves, disinfection. All of these precautions are seriously effective, but also raise expenditure levels for the construction industry as a whole. Next slide, please. Let's take a closer look at expenditure. Some of the everyday expenses are quite costly, such as transportation, rental, but also manageable since you are more inclined to just modified and exciting contract with the supplier. Whereas with masks and gloves, it's hard to measure the demand for each construction site and get the best possible deal. The goal today is to take these factors into consideration and find a more cost-effective solution for the long run. The next slide. These next two slides are dedicated to the effect the pandemic had on the people and developers separately and what measures have been taken to support them. The most devastating effect for the people was the rise in unemployment, restrictions on travel and commute, including inside the country. The decrease of income for individuals' households plummeted the demand for houses and lead to daily in mortgage payments. The government approved subsidies for families with children and lowered the mortgage rate to 6.5% for a new flat. For the developers, the main measures can be, next slide please. For the developers, the main measures can be divided into two main categories. Common measures, superiorly burden reduction, suspensions or cancellation of fines, extension of documents, validity in the sector. And the next one is measures for the system forming organization. Preferential loans, tax payment, suspensions. Next slide, please. Our work and consolidations with other contraction makers players has helped us better understand the reality of the economic effects of the virus and how to closely our industries parameters are integrated with health, ecology, and environment. We have realized a need for the industry standard of safety measures that will help us. First of all, look down the common restrictions and measures and ones that are specific to certain stage. Elementary unnecessary spending and cut costs. The next slide, please. Yes. Another important part of the recovery is stimulating demand by issuers of mortgage loans. We have different programs for mortgages that proved successful. Housing affordability is one of the most important aspects for the industry as a whole because it solves problems in the cycle. The general public get access to homes. Developers get paid back on their projects. The bank system is supposed by other activity, the economics get going. You can see on this slide. The next, please. And one of the most important questions, what's next? When speaking about recovery, what's important to realize is how many areas are involved. The measures that I've spoken about today are very specific to construction. I think in the future we need to pay more attention to policies that will make the industry and the economics more stable and sustainable. For instance, technological developments have always seemed as part of evolution and digitalization of economic. How we can say that they're a necessity? We have campaigns that give stakes to workers and supervise their completions in the online regime and digitally managed construction sites. The next slide, please. In conclusion, furthering the use, the technologies can make the industry less susceptible to disruptions such as viruses, lockdowns, and restriction on travel. These options come at a great time with families forced to spend time inside the homes. To make the experience as comfortable as possible, we should encourage these types of advancement in the industry. Over time, the economic effect will become more and more tangible. Sometimes that I think can be stressed more is the globalization of processing. Even the COVID-19 interference has shown that as a global community, we need to stay connect as we go through the same steps. We shall help coordinate actions within one country, and more importantly, within our planet, will help us resolve these issues and get back to normal as quickly as possible, and we can make it, of course, together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. I think virtually all of us, no matter what we do, have had to struggle to adapt to this pandemic. And it is remarkable how much Russia and your ministry have been able to do in this very short time to help the construction sector to adapt. In particular, your goals to ensure housing affordability in these difficult times and to build up to 98 million square meters of housing this year are inspiring. This is a good time to reveal the results of our poll question to the audience in the waiting room. We asked you, what do you think are the most significant challenges facing the construction sector worldwide? And we can see that the number one factor you have chosen is costs, which I think connects very much with some of the Deputy Minister's presentation just now. But closely following that, we see that low technology adoption and sustainability are major concerns that you feel are affecting the industry. And we'll be touching on this now during the dialogue. All right. Let's move on now to the Q&A segment of this webinar. I have two questions to start for the Deputy Minister. At the end of your presentation, you talked about the importance of staying connected as a global community, of working closely with other countries to share ideas and expertise. This leads me to my first question. How can countries collaborate to address challenges facing the construction sector globally? What would you like to see in this area?
No, I think for us it's very important to make some groups of questions. For example, first of all, it can be some question how to begin building. The next part, how to build, and the last one, how to make registration for the new buildings in our country. I think in all the world has too.
All right, so very common challenges faced by many countries, and we can share ideas about how to deal with those. I'm asking the second question in a sense on behalf of the audience. We have received several questions that are interested to learn about business opportunities in the Russian construction sector, either in terms of the types of firms or services or different cities or regions in Russia. So my question to you is, what is your advice, Deputy Minister, to foreign businesses that are interested in opportunities to invest or collaborate in Russia?
You know, it's very easy. Now is the best time to come to our country with an investigation, with some investigation to the building, and because now we have so good programs for the people to buy the new houses, that company which want to come in our country to build need to do it yesterday, not tomorrow, but yesterday.
Okay, and very good to hear that you are very welcoming and open to such investments and the urgency of the work that is needed. Moving on now to questions from the audience. Building affordable housing is a key focus in Russia. In 2015, 85 million square meters of residential real estate was built, setting an impressive record for the country. Michelle Dong has an interesting question related to this. She asks, what are the strengths and challenges of the Russian construction companies?
You know, the one of the main is increased twice our build housing.
Sorry, they've increased the rate of.
Twice, increased twice to all our building houses.
I see. Okay, thank you. Right, now our next question is, I think, on a topic that you are especially interested in, Deputy Minister. These questions are related to the role of technology in the Russian construction sector. You said in your presentation that compared with before, we can now say that technological developments are a necessity for the evolution of the economy and for recovery of the construction sector. Tan Guo-xian wants to know, how can the construction industry as a whole leverage on technology to emerge from the COVID-19 situation stronger? And if I may add to that, are there certain technologies in particular that you think appear more promising?
First of all, it's not so big net value. It's one of the most important. The next is the time of the building, the construction, and the third, I think it's after the registration, how to use new housing and how to make them good after 10, 12 years or maybe 20 years, because we have all documents in BEAM technology. That's why for us and for our children, it will be more better to use.
All right, so for the long-term sustainability and lifespan of these buildings. Okay, thank you, Deputy Minister. You also mentioned earlier the example of Russian construction companies using technology that allows workers to operate equipment safely from a distance. Our next question from Kendrick Tay is about the role of policymaking in promoting such technologies. He asks, could you tell us about policy measures that Russia has taken to address the shift in construction technologies? How can government encourage construction companies to use technologies?
Yes, you know, very important for us.
Sorry, Deputy.
One of the important of us was about 2 or 3 years ago, we tell our companies that all state order in our country will go only in that buildings only to this company which make new technology, which makes and include new technology in by when the developments make.
Okay, good. So using the power of government procurement to nudge companies to adopt technologies.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, moving on. You made a point towards the end of your presentation that we need to pay more attention to policies that will make the construction industry and economy more stable and sustainable. This relates very well to an audience question from Lee Sin Sun that we received. They're asking, in your view, what are the 2 or 3 most effective practices for the transformation of the construction industry to achieve stability and sustainability? Deputy Minister?
You know, I think in our country is the new plan to 2030, which make for all our cities plans, how to build, what they need to build, how many squares and flat they need to build, how many roads, some special things, metro, something like this. They need to make that after the build, we have a new, I don't know how it's in English, a new special plane special. Just a second. Среда, environment, special environment, new environment for the people who will live. I think it's like this something.
Okay, good. So if I understand, you're talking about especially the role of urban planning and how that can contribute to stability as well and predictability.
Yes.
Okay, I think we have a question from the audience, the live audience today, which is interesting. And this comes from Eric Pascal, who is asking, is there a true dramatic cost impact which is genuinely implementable to technology? So I think what he is asking is there a technology that can significantly reduce costs in the construction industry? Any thoughts on that, Deputy Minister?
I think that it's when we make a project of next building, of course, the price will be more. But when we build by taking new technologies, it will be not so expensive. But when we will use it, it will have a very good time to take our investigation back. That's why, of course, first of all, of course, is when we project the new building, take a new technology, we need to go to our special institute to take care that it will be good technology, that will be not dangerous technology. And of course, in the way we spend a lot of time, and of course not and spend money, of course, to make the new technology to take to our buildings.
Okay, thank you. And I think a good reminder there to guard against certain dangers that can be associated with some of these technologies as well. Yes. Okay, we have some questions related to the welfare of workers during the pandemic. And it's on many people's minds. And it's heartening to hear you say in your presentation earlier that Russia is taking a strong action to enforce safety of workers. We have a question from David, who is asking, do you think that the rising costs due to safe distancing and other pandemic control measures will significantly impact the volume of the construction activity, or is it only a minor factor? In other words, you know, we saw in the video just now all the masks and safe distancing and sanitizers and other measures that you have put in place. Do you find that these are increasing costs a lot and will affect construction activity, or is it not very significant?
You know, it's a very, very important question. Because 2 or 3 months ago, when the COVID-19 comes, nobody knows how to work. And in the first of time in our constructions, we spent a lot of money to make a standard, to improve the standard, to ask our businessmen to take this standard. And of course, they spend a lot of money in the beginning. But now, I think they have optimization things which today, I think from the cost of one of the flat, it's about not more 2 or 3% for 1 meter buildings. I think it's like this. But without this, we can't work.
Okay, right. Thank you. We have another question now coming from the live audience. And this question is from Pat Long, who asks, will the green real estate and AI, with AI, IoT, so artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things, address post-COVID in construction industry? What kind of opportunities are available? So I think the question here is about looking forward in the construction industry after the pandemic. do you think that sustainability, green real estate, and new technologies like artificial intelligence and IoT will create a lot of opportunities in the construction industry in Russia?
You know, as for me, I think absolutely, but we don't have too much plans to do it because we don't have this technology in our country to improve to the all the country. That's why if you have some good ideas how to do it, we can take it and together implement it in our country.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have found that many people have observed that the construction industry, you know, it's a very important industry, very valuable to many economies, but is also seen as quite a traditional and conservative industry. And in many ways, technology takes a longer time to advance quickly in this sector. So that's a fair point. All right, now we have a question here that is asking about the longer term. Do you expect any long-term or permanent changes to health and safety regulations and building codes? So this is about how obviously a lot of changes have been put in place quickly to deal with COVID-19. But in the longer term, do you think this is going to change how we approach health, safety, and building codes that governments institute for buildings?
You know, I think it's long term. Absolutely. And it's very good because in our buildings work many people from many countries. And if we will have special rules for all, we will not have a big problem like with the COVID-19 before. That's why I think of course, they after 1 year or 2 years, they will make not so big and not so special. But I think they need to stay, of course, in our life, in our whole life, not only in the construction.
Okay, right. Yes, this is not going to go away anytime too soon. In any case, now we have a question. Looking at things from a broader perspective, especially in terms of urban planning. I hope I get the audience member's name right. It is from Alexei Daknovsky, who is asking, what is the status of the renovation program in Moscow? And when will Russian cities have a master plan with a development strategy?
You know, of course, we have special things about master plan. We start from the Vladivostok with company which name is NKCK. It's with Fadi. I think you know who is it. It's a very good man who make us the master plans. And if somebody want to do it more for another cities in our country, come on and do it.
Okay, very good. I have a question now of my own that I've been wanting to ask you. You know, many people have argued that we need to emerge not just stronger, but greener from this crisis. Many governments are putting a lot of effort and funds into making sure that the recovery is not just fast and strong, but sustainable. For example, funds are being directed that are being directed to sectors like construction can be used to promote climate mitigation. What is your view on this?
You know, I think we need to find more money to this, not to take from one place to go to another place. We need to find new, more money to this very, very important thing.
Okay, yeah, so funding is very much an issue. Now, I think we have time for maybe one more question. I have one here from Matthew Cole. Can the team flash it on the screen? Yes. Do you see green energy and waste management as a viable area of industry that the construction sector may benefit from. So is this an area where you are seeing much activity in Russia?
It's very important because it's very important for people who will pay for them life, for the units, for the flats, for all the industrial companies, for all of us. Because for me, I think we need to pay more for some time which we spend with our family, not for money for the electricity or water or something like this.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Minister. I think this pandemic has forced us to adapt in many ways, and I think we have seen today that both strong leadership as well as technology are key to helping cities emerge stronger from this pandemic. Again, thank you, Mr. Deputy Minister Nikita Stasishin, for your time with us today. Okay, our next webinar will be in 2 weeks on the 27th of August. It is titled Amsterdam Leading the Way Towards Car-Light Cities. Our distinguished speaker is Ms. Sharon Dijksma, the Deputy Mayor of Amsterdam. She will share how Amsterdam is creating safe, livable, and accessible streets despite growing numbers of people in the city, and especially in light of disruptions like COVID-19. Our guest moderator for this session is the Dutch ambassador to Singapore. Please register to attend using the QR code or the link. This webinar has been live streamed on CLC's Facebook page, and we'll upload a recording of it in the next hour on our CLC YouTube channel, where you can find over 500 other videos, including several related to the topic of construction. Finally, thank you to you, dear viewers, for your participation. We hope you find these webinars useful. Before you leave, please use the QR code or link to fill in our feedback form. Do tell us what works and how we can do better. We've come to the end of today's webinar, but as always, we will be leaving this room open for another 10 minutes or so. Feel free to exchange comments with each other using the chat box. Until our next webinar on the 27th of August, goodbye and stay healthy.